Okay, here we go. Let's talk about posts and pages. That is the real core of your site because that's the actual content of your site. So if you're not familiar with the difference, a page is generally static content or static address. For example, an About Us page, about the company page, is static. That's not a blog post, that's a page. A Get in Touch page is a page, whereas an article or company news or a tutorial may be published as a blog post. Because I guess a blog post is generally appears with a date. So that date is generally there for good. So it doesn't make sense to have a date on an About Us page or a contact page or a services page. So, it does. I'm not saying that the About page will never be updated. It may be updated. The contact page may be updated. The services page may be updated. But you don't want a date there. And it doesn't make sense to put that as a blog post because it's not a blog post. A blog post is something you want to publish, which it may be a tutorial, it may be an article, it may be company news. I guess maybe one way to think about it, a blog post is not a core part of your site. It's a great part of your site. People enjoy blog posts, people link to blog posts, people share blog posts. But unless your entire site is a blog, and your entire site could be a blog, so unless your entire site is a blog, it's not the core of your site. It's part of your site, but it's not the core of it. Whereas, of course, if your entire site is just blog post after blog post, I guess it is the core of your site. So hopefully I've explained this somewhat clearly. Let's start. Maybe the easiest way is to just go through this. So I'm going to start going through this as I would a website of mine or a client, whatever it may be. So you want to create a structure first of all. That's very important. And as mentioned in the previous video, you don't want to mess around with the structure. Once you've created it, you don't want to keep moving things around because it confuses visitors and it confuses the search engines. And you don't want to confuse the search engines. You want things to be easily understandable for the search engines so they send you traffic. So we've already set up settings reading, where you've specified what your home page is and what your blog page is. Again, if your entire site was a blog, you would just have front page displays your latest posts. Or even if you choose, for whatever reason, to do it this way, front page is blog and post page is, well, okay, but that doesn't really make sense. If your entire site was a blog, you would do that. But let's do an example of a services site. So the front page is a home page, again a static page. It doesn't make sense to have a date there. It will be updated likely, but it should. And actually, another thing to bear in mind: pages shouldn't generally have comments. People should not be posting comments under your homepage saying this is great, or I hate your business, or whatever it may be. That doesn't make sense. A blog post encourages discussion. A page, there shouldn't be any discussion really, because it doesn't really make sense for people to be discussing below, submitting comments below your about page or contact page or services page. That's not the goal of such a page. Okay, so front page, home, post page, blog. But as I haven't saved, I don't need to save because I can just move away. So there we go. Okay, so let's create the structure. And in pages, all pages, it lists all the pages. And there's some options you may find handy. For example, screen options. If you have a lot of pages, you may want to display more than 20 pages on this page. Because if you have, let's say, 200 pages, you don't want to be clicking through 10 pages to find certain pages on your site. So let's just, even though it's irrelevant here, let's make a number of items here as 200. And you generally want to show as much information on the screen as possible, just to give you more context. Okay, so importantly here, there's different sections of the pages. There's different types of pages. Well, all pages are listed here. It lists, you can just list the published pages, the pages that are live on your site if you choose. And you can also, if you choose, they don't appear here by default under all, but you can see the pages you've sent to trash, to the WordPress equivalent of the recycle bin. So if we click on trash, there's just some pages I've sent to trash. So it definitely doesn't hurt to clear out trash entirely from time to time. One reason being, actually I'll come to that in a later video because I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump around too much, and it will just make things difficult to follow. So okay, trash. As mentioned, you want to clear this out from time to time unless you really think you may need to restore a page rather. So if you restore it, you just check it and click restore, and it moves from trash back to all. And bulk actions, pretty self-explanatory. You can do multiple selections. If you click here, it selects them all, or you can just select them individually until you have as many selected as you choose. And then you can choose restore all or I was trying to say delete permanently everything you've selected. Or click on empty trash, as you can see, that's another option. Or just hover over each page and delete permanently this way. So multiple options basically to do exactly the same thing. So that's part of the learning curve of WordPress, is there can often be lots of different ways to achieve the same goal. So in this instance, I'm just going to click on empty trash. There we go, and trash is gone, and there's no getting it back. Okay, back to all. Okay, I want to start completely blank. So select all, move all of these to trash. And probably help if I clicked apply. There we go. So we're starting with a completely blank site because I want to build up the structure from scratch. So you need to give a lot of thought into the structure because it's very important, not only for now when you launch your site, but also in the future as your site grows. But again, you don't want to move things around. So you want to set things up right from the start so your site is easy to navigate, easy to understand, logically organized, but also is set up in such a way that it facilitates adding to it without it either getting too cluttered or you having to move things around. Because you don't want your site to get too cluttered, you don't want to have to move things around. Okay, I wanted to present this visually without me having to put something together in PowerPoint, because it might be a little bit redundant. So I've just gone to Google WordPress navigation structure image. Okay, I just wanted to present this concept visually. And actually this is a .edu image search. Let's go there. Okay, I've ended up at the University of Alaska, Fairbanks. There we go, that's what we wanted. Okay. So that's it. There's two things I would say you want to avoid here, and that's why it's important you give thought to exactly what you're trying to achieve with your site and you're trying to put across. You don't want your site to be too wide, but you also don't want it to be too deep, because both of them are difficult to navigate, both for visitors and also for the search engines. Because what's easy for visitors is also easy for the search engines. So you want things logically organized horizontally and vertically. But yeah, you don't want things going too deep. And actually, let me just bring up another example. Okay, I've gone to a website quickly that has an image that's putting across exactly what I want to put across, and I thought I should leave the whole website in. So as I'm sharing this image, I'm going to give them a little bit of free advertising. And actually, yeah, you can see even though the blog post is dated 2010, changing site structures with care. They specify as well how important it is to think about site structures right from the start. So that's kind of what I was looking to put across. Again, you don't want to go too wide and you don't want to go too deep, because either way it becomes difficult to navigate your site. And your site, for example, if your site had 20 top level options, that would be confusing. People just wouldn't, it would tell me immediately that the site isn't well structured, isn't structured in a logical way. And you don't want to overwhelm people with too many choices ever, because if they don't know where to click, they'll probably just click away. So you don't want to confuse people. That's very important. And too many choices can confuse people. So, okay, homepage. And then the main sections of your site. And then within each section, subsections. Now, I've said in the past, and this is a very broad rule of thumb, it really is, but maybe try not to go more than 4 levels deep, perhaps. That may be easy for you. It may not be particularly easy for you, depending on your site and how much content you have. But yeah, I would say not too wide, not too deep, and very logically structured. And once you've given that some thought and understand how, what the important sections of your site, then it becomes a lot easier once you actually go to WordPress and start creating pages. Because when you add a page, obviously you add your home page. That's your home page is your home page. That's not something that's debatable. And you generally want a blog page. If you're having a blog, which you generally make sense to do so. If you're interested in getting more traffic. Blog, the homepage is a homepage. Blog is one section of the site. Let's use the example as mentioned of a services site. And let's say web design services. Web design services, why not? So you would generally have a services section of the site, so a services option. And you may have a About Us section. These are the top level sections of your site, which should be immediately accessible from every single page on your site. You generally want the About Us clickable on every single page. You generally want the Get in Touch clickable on every single page. You don't want to hide that away. That's a top level option. So let's take a look now, all pages. So here we've got 5 main sections of the site. 4 main sections of the site and the home page. So the services section, which is definitely one of the most important sections for a site, for a website, for a business offering services. The blog section, and then About Us and Get in Touch. And even though About Us and Get in Touch are top level options that have their own sections, often they won't have more than one page. Often an About Us page is just one page. A Get in Touch page or Get in Touch section is just one page. Whereas the services section may have lots of options below that. So About Us could be one page, Get in Touch one page, blog would have multiple posts but not multiple pages, an important distinction. And then services, let's add some service pages. So the main services page could be, thank you for your interest in our services. Here are some details on our services, and then click through for more details on some of our services, which may include, let's say, logo design. Actually, no, again, we want to structure it logically. So what are the main services? If we're only offering website design, actually, that's a bit narrow. So let's say one option is design. And here we want to specify a parent. We want to specify that this page is below services. Okay. And then we could have another page. So one service is design. Let's say another service is marketing. And again, we need to specify a parent. And let's just do one more. And so design, marketing, and why not say content? So writing and so on. And again, specify a parent. So now if we go back to all pages, you can see how it appears. So the services page, the services section of the site, and 3 sub-pages below that. It's very important, content, design, and marketing are not top-level menu options. They're menu options below services in the services section of the site. So if you go back to the image, there's the home page. Let's say that's services. And then these are your services listed. Okay, so yeah, and then if you wanted, and then your content, well, okay, let's say it's services design, you would have a page detailing your design services. And if you had a lot, if you wanted to get really in-depth, really granular, you could perhaps add another sub-page below design, perhaps website design, logo design, brand, designing an entire brand. Because if you do have in-depth services below design, you may not want to describe them all on one page because the page could be huge. So you may want to break it up over multiple sub-pages. But again, you want to start avoiding going too deep because people just won't click indefinitely. So balance width with depth to make your site easy to understand, easy to navigate, and yeah, to help your visitors and the search engines have a good experience on your site. And again, think carefully at the start. Don't change the design. Don't change the layout, rather the structure of the site, if at all possible, in future. So think about it carefully right from the start of how your business is going to take shape, your business goals, and the type of content you're going to be publishing to your site. So yeah, so that's how you add pages. That's how you add sub-pages. And that's why it's very important to think carefully right at the start about the structure your website's going to take.